To continue what I was saying, and for the people on the side of the Palestinians, um, I do feel condolences for what they've had to go through, but it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but there still has to be some kind of code of conduct, rules of engagement when you are, retaliating. I get IDF has done a lot of horrendous things. They have shot journalists and lied about it for months and months and months. They've been very dishonest. They've continuously moved and moved and moved the borders. They've seized more and more land, even though they said they were going to do it, even though they went against international laws. They have been one of the biggest violators of international law, and somehow from the West they constantly keep getting away with it. I mean, Hamas soldiers, you still need to keep a moral compass, even if you're dealing with somebody who's acting immoral, because what that looks like to the outside is it doesn't look like your cause is just, and therefore leaves the room for them to bring up this time and ignore all of the stuff which Israel's doing, because we already know that it is a biased media, and the media has already picked a side. The media is definitely on one side. That's pretty clear, and it's always been clear. And they are going to always, always, especially most of the mainstream media, tilt and side towards Israel. It's been pretty clear for most of us, and you should know that. Um, that said, I understand your suffering, but I mean, I'll say one more time: a code of conduct, a code of ethics has to be maintained. All that said, we all still don't know exactly what's going on, because at this point with the state of Israel, I don't even trust any of their numbers. I don't trust none of the official story. Plenty of people in Israel don't even trust the official story that there was just this massive lapse in security, and Hamas was just able to pull off this great masterful attack. I don't buy that. And let's say if I'm wrong and it was just this massive just misstep, with the Pegasus software, with Mossad, how they're able to literally track scientists in Iran, sneak behind enemy lines. Well, I don't want to say enemy lines. I'll say sneak behind the borders, sneak into the country of Iran and assassinate their leaders. Have no problem getting away with doing that, getting in and out of the country, sabotaging this and that, being able to gather intel from everywhere. And you're telling me that the people who you are concerned with, who you consider a direct enemy, Hamas, that you're not keeping tabs on them and you don't know what's going on. I mean, they literally monitor the ground for digging in Israel. It's probably one of the most secure countries in the world, and you're telling me that they were allowed to sneak into the country and for hours there was basically no response? It's just hard for me to buy that. Like I said, I could be wrong. I could just be this crazy conspiracy theorist and don't trust any of the news that we get. I also look at somebody like a Bibi Netanyahu. I think that he is nefarious enough that he would allow the deaths of many of his own people for the ultimate Zionist goals of getting all of the land. I completely buy that. And also knowing some of the extreme religious zealots in that land, um, and about the red heifers that are almost to full age, the perfect red heifers for the third temple, and knowing that In order for them to build that third temple, they need the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which there's been all those attacks in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. All of those things have, in my opinion, have to be factored in, and nothing can be taken for granted in this scenario. What may or may not be happening. Um, I will also put in the fact of a lot of before this, Netanyahu was literally like facing almost like a civil war in the country. I mean, you had a bunch of people who was furious with what he was doing. You have a bunch of people who don't like what the IDF has been doing and been speaking out on it. You have a bunch of Israelis who are like, we do not support what our government has been doing to the Palestinians. We don't support what they've been doing in general. We wish that we could work out solutions, and so that we wouldn't be treating the people of Gaza like crap. I mean, literally, you have somebody who might need like life-saving medical care, and it's like they can literally see the hospital, but because they're a Palestinian, they can't go to that hospital. The whole, I don't even want to say second class citizen. I mean, it's literally like keeping somebody in a refugee camp, and they're only able to get treatment from within inside what's inside those walls, and then the people next to you have first class everything. It's going to build nothing but bitterness and rage. And people will say, "Oh, well, they voted in Hamas." Majority of the people in Gaza were not born even when that those elections happened. Gaza's most of the population is children. So when they're doing this mass bombing and they're saying that they're fighting Hamas, if you were fighting the soldiers of Hamas, that's one thing. But what I'm seeing is they're saying Hamas, and then you'll see in another breath, they're saying, why would I help my enemies? When people say, well, what about the innocent women and children? Why would I help my enemy? And obviously, from these people that they're talking to, these ambassadors and stuff, they're showing that they don't see a distinction between the people, of the Palestinians and Gaza. I mean, and Hamas. They see no distinction. They see them all as one, as all the enemy. So therefore, if you've got it in your head that they're all the enemy and you've demonized them to that level, then of course you don't care about what happens to them. And if you don't care about what happens to them and you allow this horrible treatment to happen to them, then what you put out into the world a lot of times is what's going to come back to you. Israel also is known to have a lot of problems with race and be a very racist country in general. So there's a lot of things going on, and if anybody done any real research into the Talmud and even what some of their rabbis say, for you evangelical Christians, go over to Israel and start talking Jesus and see how you get treated. I'm just telling you that this is what everybody thinks is going on, especially from Western media. It's a lot more going on than what you guys are understanding and what you guys are listening to. Now, some people might get it and understand this, and what I'm saying is already well known. But there are a lot of people who are just buying everything hook, line, and sinker and only looking at Hamas as so-called the enemy. For those people who look at Bibi and say, well, if Bibi is out of the way, then everything will be good. Well, you still got people like Naftali Bennett. You still got people like Benny Gantz. You still got Itamar, I can't even pronounce his name right now. Itamar Ben Gavir, whatever. He's literally a convicted terrorist. And he's in charge of the IDF. So you have a convicted terrorist who once said he would like to basically get a crude word for erase all Palestinians no longer breathing on this earth. That's the person who's in charge of the IDF. So Bibi, though he's a snake and he's a politician, once he's out of the way and he's done giving the mask and the facade, the real wolves, the real heartless ones are right behind him and are going to continue this type of behavior. So, well, I got a little bit more, but I guess I'll make a part 3.